I do voices.
Yes!
Bedtime stories with Roger.
Good evening, children. The title of tonight's story is Grandma, the Wolf, and the Mauling. It's a good one. Once upon a time, there was a delightful old grandma who lived in a beautiful cottage in the woods. It was getting dark, and Grandma hurried home from visiting her grandchildren because the woods are no place for old grannies. For there was a vicious, savage wolf who would love nothing more than to tear off one of Granny's ancient limbs and have a good old feast. As Grandma went to open the front door, she realized that it was slightly ajar. "That's funny," she thought. "I was sure I closed it earlier." Probably the onset of Alzheimer's, or the other thing. What's it called? Dementia. But what Grandma didn't realize is that the big bad wolf was already in her home. Grandma grabbed a lovely hot cup of cocoa. Oh, lovely hot cocoa. I've got hot cocoa too, Grandma. And went up to her room and got into bed. She didn't need to brush her teeth because she didn't have any. Now, avert your eyes, everybody. Grandma's about to undress for bed. Goodness me! I didn't know they could hang so low. Of course, I'm talking about her petticoat. It shouldn't go lower than the shin. Darling, I was referring to a petticoat. Really, we're going to have to edit this image out. As Grandma got into bed and turned out the light, she noticed a large, dark, shadowy creature in the corner of her room. No, it wasn't Granddad. He'd died 3 years before. She hardly had time to scream when the wolf was on top of her, clawing at her 80-year-old face and savagely ripping at her jugular. In an instant, she thought of her 20-gauge shotgun, but it was no good because A, it was downstairs, and B, she had run out of shells earlier in the day after shooting squirrels. Fortunately, she did have something to fight off the wolf, a nice, scalding cup of cocoa. She grabbed it with her remaining functioning arm and threw it into the wolf's face. With a yelp, the wolf leaped off and ran out of the cottage. Once back in his den, he lapped the cocoa off his fur and quite enjoyed it. Sadly for him, the theobromine in the cocoa is poisonous to canines, and he died later that night after suffering excruciating spasms. The end. Now, I don't want you to have nightmares. I don't want you to think about Grandma's lacerated face. I don't want you to think about the scary wolf, and I don't want you to think about all the blood. I want you to have a good sleep. Make sure you tune in to next week's story titled The School Bus, The Cliff, and the Megalodon. Until next time, children, good night.
Bedtime stories with Roger.
I do voices.
Yes!